Never thirsty. Never thirsty. What's going on, fellas?
There we go.
Big
We are. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. Wow, that's a lot. How are you, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Never Thirsty. I am Stu Stone, aka Chitty Bambino, and we are live, all the way from New York State. Where in New York are you?
I'm somewhere out here.
Sorry, say that again.
I said I'm somewhere out here in the
somewhere out there. Somewhere out there in the Brooklyn area. That is the Never Thirsty man, the last, the only, the greatest American b-boy there is. Mr. Neff, how are you? Are you good today? You have a good weekend?
Oh, yeah. Fantastic weekend. My birthday was awesome. Everything.
Yeah,
was
you had
good.
a birthday. What did you do for your birthday? Did you have a big celebration?
I hung out with Busta Rhymes for the first few hours of my birthday, and Ron Brown.
What now?
Hung out with Busta Rhymes and Ron Browns for the first few hours of my birthday.
Like Busta, what it is right now?
Yeah, that was how I brought in my birthday. Shout out to Prayer. Also brought it in with Prayer.
So what were you guys doing? Were you guys like, having drinks or?
Yeah, listening party for his artist Prayer. And there was some drinks there, and it just happened to be midnight when we brought in the listening party and had a great time.
Great. Well, happy birthday, man.
Thank you. I think
Did you get any gifts? Did you get any gifts?
No.
Are you too old for gifts?
I don't know if I'm too old for them. I'm just not getting them. I'm a father.
Nobody gave a
dad.
So your kid didn't give you like a card? Nothing?
Nah. Nope. Something to look forward to, my friend.
Man.
Listen.
You know what? You're not the only one. I have several friends, shout out to Cable Guy Jeff, who have kids. And I ask them all the time, like, did you get a present? And sometimes they get a card. But yeah, I think you're right. Why is that? Like, did you give gifts to your parents when they were? I guess you didn't. Maybe
the mother gets gifts. The mothers get gifts. The mothers get gifts.
Not the dads.
No, we're expendable. So.
Yeah, it's a topic for another time. All the way from Dusseldorf, Germany, home of Bob's famous Gentlemen's Club, ladies and gentlemen. You can see him DJing there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, as part of Oktoberfest coming up. WireFang is here all the way from Dusseldorf. WireFang, how are you, my friend?
Okay.
Did he say something?
He did not. He's frozen in
here we go. It's called boobs in Munich.
Boobs, but it's spelled B-O-B-S. So we pronounce it Bob's here.
No, it's pronounced boobs.
But you're going to be DJing there. I see as a part of Oktoberfest, and there's going to be bratwurst and beverages and beats. Is that what it says here? Brats, beverages, and beats and WireFang. That sounds like a good time. No,
WireFang,
we're speechless on that. Yeah, we can't hear you, WireFang, but we assume that you're saying that this is nice, or all of your great stuff. All right, well, let's talk. Today is Canadian Thanksgiving, which probably means not a lot to you guys. And here's a funny thing. It's today when we're recording this episode. They don't celebrate Thanksgiving. It's not like a national holiday like it is in America.
Did they kill the indigenous people over there too?
I mean,
is that what they're celebrating, or what's going on?
You know what? I really got to be honest with you, man. Growing up, I never really celebrated Thanksgiving until I moved to California. And then I was like, Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving. But it wasn't in Canada. It's not like a national holiday like that. It's like more like a religious holiday. Like if you go to church, it's like a Thanksgiving mass or something like that. Like
What is it based on over here? You know, we have the turkeys, the Indians, the settlers. That was the commercial marketing campaign for us when we were kids. What
Right,
was it for you
right.
guys?
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, it was out of my wheelhouse. Like, I didn't know about, like, I had a few friends that had Thanksgiving, and it was just like, oh, I guess they're going to do whatever that is. Like, I didn't, it wasn't like something that was like taught to me personally. And I feel like kind of dumb, like being this age that I am, and how do I not know, what Canadian Thanksgiving is? But I guess we've sort of adopted the American, like, our generation has sort of adopted this, thankfulness aspect of it, right? And it's just like,
okay.
oh, I'm thankful for you, and I'm thankful for that. But I don't think that it's. Should I look it up?
Yes.
Canadian Thanksgiving. Do you think this is good clickbait? What is Canadian Thanksgiving? Let's find out. Well, it is today. And the history is Lower Canada used Thanksgiving to celebrate the end of the Lower Canada Rebellion in 1838. But I don't think that's the one. Huh. What is the difference between Canada, Thanksgiving in Canada? I don't know, man. Celebration, spending time with family, feasting, religious practice, and football. See, that's what I'm saying. It's a religious. Okay, here it is. I think the actual thing where it started, like Thanksgiving at this time of year, actually came from like Britain and France, and it was celebrating the harvest. So it's like you'd be thankful for the harvest, and you would serve like pumpkins or whatever the hell is like, corn and your harvest, right? You're thankful for the harvest. And then I think that like it kind of evolved into more of a religious kind of thank God type of thing, maybe.
But what religion?
Christianity. So yeah, I mean, we celebrate, I grew up celebrating Rosh Hashanah. So it's like I had some like, all the kids were celebrating Christmas. I had Hanukkah. It's like a whole different sort of thing. It's not the same. No tree, no presents under the tree.
Do you
no
get presents for
eggnog.
Hanukkah at all?
You do. You know what? I would say that we might be beating Christmas in that aspect, because in Hanukkah you're supposed to get presents for 8 nights, not just one night.
I see.
eight crazy nights, right? And so when I was younger, it used to be that way. It's like the first night of Hanukkah is coming, and it's like, what are we getting? And it would be like by like day 7, it's like the present quality goes from like, you get some really cool stuff maybe on day 1 and 2, and like maybe by day 7, it's like you're getting like a pair of socks. It's like you're not. I think it goes downhill. But maybe some families did it differently. But I did have a neighbor that celebrated Christmas, and we used to go to their house for Christmas, like Christmas morning or Christmas Eve, whichever one. I forget which way they did it. But so we did have presents under their tree and like candy canes and stuff like that. So I always loved that. And I can tell you a funny gift that I remember getting. So I must have been like 8 or maybe I'm like 9 or 10 or 11 years old, whatever. And now I'm starting to get a little too old to be like going to like the Christmas thing. But I go, and my neighbors, they used to get us gifts. So I had like, my gift was like packaged in like a nice sort of box. And I opened the box, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what this is going to be. And it's like a black kind of cool silk, like, like these like starter jackets. So it's like this material, but it's black, and there's like a kind of cool color here. Nothing on the front. It's just like a cool kind of starter jacket. So I'm like, oh, sweet. This is great. And I put on the jacket, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I can't wait to wear this. And then I realized on the back of the jacket is a giant patch that says New Kids on the Block.
Oh, Lord have mercy. You get beat up wearing that one.
So they got me a New Kids on the Block jacket, which, was all the rage, to be fair, that season, I would imagine. But, wasn't, my excitement level went from like a very high to a very like mediocre, like, still thank you for the jacket. But it was like, my mom, I remember my mom being like, you better keep smiling.
Oh, you let your mother know you were disappointed from the gate?
Oh, I
she
was
did-
like, I let everybody know. I was like, what the hell is New Kids on the Block?
Aw, horrible.
And they were like, and I think they felt bad that it was New Kids. They thought I liked it. To be fair, I could be seen doing like the dance and whatnot in the streets. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what would have given them the
How old
idea.
were you?
Like I said, this had to have been like in the height of New Kids on the Block mania. So this is probably
10, 11?
like 10 or 11. And like
What a
I
kid.
think it's a start, and I think it's a starter jacket because that's what I want, right? It's like I want a starter jacket with like the Raiders or the LA Kings or whoever. I want like a Chicago Bulls. Like I want like a starter jacket, and they got me a New Kids on the Block starter jacket.
So you
there
were
you go.
high and then you were low.
Yeah.
What is up with WireFang,
But you know what?
brother?
Here I am all these years later, and what I don't remember the gifts that I liked. I remember the New Kids jacket. So I will say that, good job on them, because like it's a memory that's clearly stayed with me for the rest of my life. Like, it's like I
Can you
don't
say
remember the guy Joe that.
Let me ask you this: Do you remember
You know
the
what I mean?
families? Do you remember the family's name who gave it to you?
Of course.
You want to give them a
Yes.
shout
the
out?
Boissels. Shout out to the Boissels. They're great. The mom and dad, Mr. Dennis, I called them, and Mrs. Marie. I had to call them Mr. and Mrs. They've passed away, which is sad, but they were my next door neighbors, and I would wander over to their house, and they were from Trinidad, and we just like our families just loved each other. But like, they had Christmas, like a really fun Christmas. And that was my experience with Christmas. And then of course, when I moved to the States, Christmas is almost like a national holiday too. It's like Christmas and Thanksgiving. It's like everybody just celebrates it all. Like you go to, Jewish people have Christmas trees. Everybody's got Christmas stuff going on.
Right.
So it feels like, maybe in Canada I was missing out on some of this holiday stuff.
Let me ask you a question: Are you the type? Because you have nephews, right?
I do.
And nieces, or just nephews?
Both.
Are you the type of uncle that
Is the coolest and greatest? Yeah.
and buys some nice gifts?
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, if you want to hear gifts that I've gotten my nephews over the last 2 years, it's like for my nephew's bar mitzvah, which is when he turned 13. So that's when you become a man. That's an episode for another time. I'll explain what a bar mitzvah is. That'll get us.
I want to know.
What is a bar mitzvah? That's a good clickbait right there.
Yeah.
But anyway, for his bar mitzvah's 13th birthday, it's a big one, right? So I got him a signed basketball from Shaquille O'Neal, and he already has a Kobe ball. So now he has a Shaq and a Kobe ball. So he was super psyched because he's a big basketball fan.
Let me ask you a question.
Cool. It's cool though that he likes Shaq. Like, he's young, this kid, and he wants Shaq. My other nephew wants Dan Marino, and they like the old Bo Jackson, and they like the old guys like who we liked. You know what I mean? It's pretty cool.
How old are they?
They're 14 and 15 now, but they play video games, and on the sports video games that they have, all the old players from like when we watched are all in the games. So they know them now, and it's kind of fun. It's like, so it's like, what they know that they don't know music, but they know sports. Like if I ask them like who is Montel Jordan, they know the song, but because that song's probably in the video game.
I think,
but like even I have a buddy named Cam. He's like 10 years younger than me. He like doesn't know what Nirvana is. Like he doesn't know what the Red Hot Chili Peppers are. Like they just like don't know what's before like Lil Flip or whatever.
Lil Flip might be a little old for them.
Lil Pump.
Yeah, maybe that's better.
One of the more recent Littles. I'm saying like that's as far back as they go.
Listen, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What?
I was gonna say who's the best Little? Probably Wayne, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without question.
It's like that was like that came right out, like natural, of course.
Yeah, that's without question. Listen, we have a guest coming in, but WireFang seems to be putting up his I don't know what type of smoke screen he's pulling right now.
Yeah, WireFang, is your microphone on? No. All right. Well, we'll just keep it talking.
And guest is not here yet.
Okay, there he is. There he is, the Fanger and Banger. Were you like, growing up in Brooklyn? Like, what was like Nirvana thing there?
I didn't grow up in Brooklyn.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I grew up in Staten Island.
Oh, okay. Of course. Yeah, I knew that. So in Staten Island, was Nirvana a thing? Were people even aware of them? Yeah, it was a thing. Yeah.
But remember when we were growing up, before, especially New York radio, it was different. They would play like Hall and Oates, Michael Jackson. We'll have like a mixture of like a like it wasn't like one particular genre kind of. It was like a mix of things.
Right.
So yeah, we knew about we were quick. Hot 97 came out later in my life anyway. Before we had Kiss FM and WBLS. Well, WBLS was the black station, but Kiss FM, BLS, 92 KTU. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but they played all types of songs. So we grew up kind of before rap really took over. It wasn't.
Yeah, so what was like? What music were you messing with before you discovered rap?
Oh man,
like Hall and Oates,
the Jackson 5, Hall and Oates, Boy George, Time and all those records. Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
Prince.
Yeah. Now back then you could tell, right, that Prince was like better than everybody else. Like it was kind of obvious.
He was the man.
You know what I mean? It's like this guy was like playing the guitar as good as anybody, but he was also dancing like as good as anybody, and he's singing and making songs as good as anybody's, and he's he's prettier than everybody else. I mean, this guy has he checked every box. I remember watching Purple Rain and not really understanding what the story was or the acting, but like the concert footage I loved. Like it was a lot of concert in the movie. I
wasn't allowed to listen to him though. When I was a kid, my mother was on some
no Prince.
I had to sleep to listen to Prince's album.
Wow.
Because he had Darling Nikki on there and talking about you masturbating to the magazine and all that. My mother was like, nah. That was like the first bad rapper.
That's so funny. I would say for me it was like Two Live Crew was like the sneaker, like Andrew Dice Clay and Jerky Boys and Two Live Crew and whatever.
I think we had. How old are you? We're 5 years apart, I think. Yeah. But I think by the time Two Live Crew came out, I was like 15, 16 already.
Right, and so I was probably
already, I was already.
You were already doing it.
Yeah, moms.
I'm telling you what, I didn't like the stuff that Two Live Crew would say in their songs was like the first time I'd ever heard anything like what? What are these guys saying?
No, they would say no. Listen, that's you, all of us. There was a whole bunch of Two Live Crews before there was Two Live Crew. It was It was what do you call that? Pushing the envelope.
Oh my god! Like shocking. But they were good.
So Horny was their song.
Oh my god!
Their first song that I ever heard. That I don't know if they had underground hits in Miami because you know how
sometimes they had, there was we want some. Hey, we want some. Can I say the word on here, WireFang? Was that a swear word?
Want some? No.
No, like the word that comes next.
Oh yeah, you can't say that.
Don't say that. No.
I don't even know the word that I don't even know that song you're talking about, and I already know if it's them.
Yeah, you know it. You know it. Trust me, it was big.
No, but
I don't remember. Somebody say, "Hey, we want some."
Oh yeah.
I'm the Peter Piper of the 1980s. I can't say the words because I'll have to owe the swear jar.
No,
but it's really funny. It's a really funny era of music where like you had Two Live Crew on the charts and like Richard Marx on the same chart. It's like people were like very, very like clean and dirty at the same time. Like Celine Dion and Loaf and like, and Two Live Crew.
How was it like Canadian radio must be different from American radio. You must have some type of difference.
Oh, big time. Are you kidding me? It's like, first of all, there's a law here that they have to play a certain percentage of the radio has to be Canadian.
Our producer's calling me.
Oh, okay.
So I have to take this call.
Sure.
Oh, no, he hung up.
Oh,
I wonder what that was about. I need to speak to my. Let me go check my.
we do have a guest. We do have a guest that we should speak of, and his name is his name is Paul Stewart. He is a legend in industry. Oh, he's here. He's an industry legend, and he's somebody that can shed some light onto this stuff because he was around and in the mix, literally, like he was in play. He was in the front line in the battlefield when hip hop was sort of fighting its way onto commercial radio, and some of the biggest successes in the history of the genre. He was right there, and hopefully we'll get some good stories out of him. But just waiting for him to join us momentarily here. And there, we'll speak of the devil. How you doing, man?
What's happening?
How are you, Paul?
What's going on?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for asking.
It's great to meet you, man.
Beautiful barrio of Zona Colonial in Santo Domingo and the wonderful island of the Dominican Republic. So life is beautiful. And thanks for having me on the podcast.
Oh, no problem, man. We were just talking about like the era of hip hop, like sort of when it started exploding and crossing into like pop radio, right? And there was, we were talking specifically how like there was a time on the chart where like Two Live Crew and Richard Marx were like both charting. It's like, there was a door that was kicked open, and a guy like you were in the front lines. You were there, and Coolio, and I mean, listen, all these big hits that became monster hits. How was that a tough battle? Like, did you have to convince somebody at some point? Were you like, "See, I told you"? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, it was all that. Hold on a second. Amor, turn down the volume. Menos. It was. I mean, when I started getting into hip hop initially, DJing and stuff, there was barely any music on the radio in California. I mean, we had K-Day early on, which was an all rap station, which was really unique. But outside of that, there was no rap on the radio. And then it would be like little shows, little this, and then yeah, some records, like one of the records I was involved in, which was Gangsta's Paradise with Coolio, was a breakthrough record. Though a lot of the breakthroughs had happened a little bit before I was actually in the industry as like a manager. It was more when I was coming up as a DJ and stuff, But that record was like international a hit. And we went to countries where like every song in their top 20 was in their language except Gangsta's Paradise. It was like, people didn't even speak English, but they knew all the words, But
I mean, Gangsta's Paradise went from, listen, you had hits that you mentioned, you got like the Humpty Hump and Rump Shaker. You had like, rap songs, but Gangsta's Paradise is like Grammy Awards and Oscars, and it's a much bigger thing.
Yeah. No, but okay, back to your question, your initial thought though. Yeah, I mean, there was a time where it was a struggle to get any music on the radio. And I mean, people made clean versions of stuff like Luke. You said if they're playing a Luke record, it was a clean version or whatever, and slowly, at first it was maybe like there might be a mix show in big markets where they played a little hip hop and maybe that's it. You know what I mean? On like the urban R&B station or whatever. And then slowly it just started to get on, then on the pop stations. And then it was a real struggle. Yeah. At first people were like definitely not messing with it, and records be blowing up on the streets and radio's just like not paying attention. New York had a more vibrant radio scene, so their thing was different. We had K-Day, and K-Day got us through until the era when big stations were playing it. You know what I mean? But other markets, tough.
But you know what? I think, interestingly enough, like, yes, New York is like the birthplace of it all, right? Everybody, East Coast, great. I mean, we all know that. But I'm here to sort of maybe offer her something that, if West Coast doesn't happen, then this, all the really big commercial successful stuff, a lot of it stems from Dre and Snoop and Warren G and Coolio, like all that stuff blowing up.
Well, we had a lot of flavors. Like my first job in the industry was at Delicious Vinyl, and I was doing promotion and marketing on Loke, Wild Thing, and Young MC Bust Move. So these were like big pop records out of LA that changed the game. Those records changed the game. That's when MTV was a baby. And MTV had Yo MTV Raps, and they were playing rap.
Even MC Hammer from the Bay, like that's West Coast.
Sure. All that, yeah.
Digital Underground, Humpty Dance. That's Sam Fran also.
The West Coast we had a more musical style, being more influenced by the funk, and the East Coast was more influenced by like the break beat, you know? And so our stuff was a
James
little more
Brown.
musical. Right. Ours was more musical, more like sing along to it. And so it ended up kind of like bleeding. That is what kind of a lot of the commercial stuff happened from that first, you know, because our stuff was more melodic and you know, we were borrowing like Coolio's first hit. It was like Lakeside, Fantastic Voyage. I mean, he didn't even change the hook. You know what I mean? So I mean, it was like, you know, but West Coast music changed the game when we came in a lot of ways because of all the really stuff that was really more commercial than what was going on in some regards to East Coast. I mean, you know, it was East Coast had so many flavors at different times. I mean, you got Kid and Play, you got Public Enemy at the same time. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, you know, there were flavors out there, you know. So I mean,
of course, you know, LL Cool J, Run DMC, they're definitely
sure,
commercially successful.
sure,
But I just feel like, you know, that 90s, the hip hop like arrived in the late 80s on a bigger scale, but in the 90s it exploded. And now, of course, we see where it is. It's the number one selling genre in the history of music, probably at this point. But
right.
I mean, I think that
That's
90s push,
right.
that 90s push sort of is like R&B was even getting big, like hip hop and R&B. I remember, you know, I was just as much as I was excited about, you know, Biggie, I was excited about, you know,
New Edition.
Sure, Keith
Right.
Sweat. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there was.
Yeah. Well, hip hop, and that's when hip hop's influence on R&B became very big. See, like
Right.
all those groups that we just mentioned, and a bunch more we could talk about, were influenced by hip hop. So it was a more of like a youth street kind of like music than like the old R&B or, you know, or like, you know, something that was more ballady or, you know, just, you know, because like, you remember Ice Cube had that record and he was making fun of the station like, we play strictly R&B, strictly R&B, strictly R&B. Because there was like a separation, you know what I mean? Like R&B said hip hop wasn't music and everything at first. And so at first they weren't with it. And then, you know, as hip hop got bigger and that all went away, you know what I mean? And so obviously, yeah, but it was, you know, there was a lot of great music coming out at that time, and that's influenced what's going on to this day, like you said, you know what I mean? It was you know, the West Coast was experimenting with different sounds, all that, you know, all the Death Row, G-Funk stuff and everything, you know what I mean, was obviously very appealing, and people loved it everywhere, all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, and there's sort of like this milestone that I want to talk to you about that really, to me, I mean, some of the greatest songs ever, your name is in or around it. You know, like there's songs like Jump Around and, you know, huge songs like Jump Around. We could do a whole episode just on that. There's not a bigger song than that.
Is that when I was shopping the House of Pain demo, trying to get him a deal, and Jump Around was on the demo. Literally the exact. It doesn't sound, you know. I mean, I'm sure they remixed it, mastered it, but they didn't change it. I mean, if you couldn't hear that, and labels, and it was also too. Some labels were definitely scared because he was white. They didn't know how to market a white artist.
Yeah,
that was the era of when it seemed like it was a good thing. You know, so.
Well, the song I wanted to mention, of course, yeah, I mean, Jump Around's one of, obviously, sure. But a song that doesn't get the credit that it deserves, in my opinion, and a song that was monumental, not only as a hit and as a pop culture phenomenon, but a milestone in sort of the achievement in the evolution of hip hop, and that would be Montel Jordan. This Is How We Do It. It's a song that everybody knows, but also it's one of the first songs that I can think of that's a massive hit that sampled a rap song. You know, it's like you had Slick Rick song was the, you know,
it was almost blasphemous, so to speak. You know,
right.
It was Def Jam's #1 first ever pop song. It was their first ever R&B hit, or singing with someone singing, you know, that was actually a hit, you know, and it went #1. And my name is shouted out in the song, which is great. I got a nice shout out in the song. There was a DJ, Paul was his name, part, you know. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's what's amazing to me is the longevity in that record. I mean, you know, every way.
No, but when that song's coming together, it's like, who's like, hey, we should flip the Slick Rick thing.
Oh, that was totally Montel. It was totally Montel. And
really?
the producer, he took the sample to the producer, who was this homeboy, R.I.P. O.G. Pierce, a great guy, R&B kind of producer, you know. And it's funny because, you know, and they did it. And then I had a Wino, a producer I worked with a lot, who did a lot of Coolio's records. He did the Fantastic Voyage and a bunch of other, produced a lot of Coolio's records. He just kind of beefed up the bass and drums, you know, made it a little more, you know, like hip hop, like in the trunk, to bump in the trunk type of thing, you know. And then we put it out, but it was totally Montel's idea.
So when you're hearing that demo and you're hearing it in the studio, is that like, that's got to be a thing where you're like, oh, geez, like, what's this? Are you guys hearing this? Like,
you know what? It's funny because of all the hits in my career, that's the one I least was like knew immediately. You know, like when I heard "Passing Me By," I knew. When I heard "Jump Around,"
that's a classic.
You know, when I heard "Fantastic Voyage," I knew. You know, "Gangster's Paradise," I kind of knew. And on "This Is How We Do It," it was so radical and different. I didn't know. Like you said, people weren't sampling hip hop records like that and then doing R&B. Right. It was the opposite. You know what I mean? And so that was like a new thing. But I believed in Montel. I believed in that concept. I was a big fan of what was going on with Mary J. Blige and Jodeci in New York and everything on the R&B. And I was like, we need our West Coast R&B hip hop. And so that was my concept for Montel. And so
he like did a little rapping on the song, like you said too. He's like singing, he's rapping. It's got the Slick Rick thing.
Yeah. I mean,
and he's also like not a little guy. He's like, if I'm not mistaken, isn't he like 6'7" or something?
Yeah, he's tall, dude. He looks like
really
he's definitely hooping. Yeah, no. Well, when I met Montel, you know, I was working for John Singleton, and he was referred, and we had a label. John had a label, and I was doing A&R for him. And he came in, and he played me his demo, and he didn't have "This Is How We Do It" on it, but he had songs that were kind of like Dre-ish, like, you know, those Moog beats, you know, West Coast kind of like Dre beats, and he was singing about driving down Crenshaw and stuff like that in his songs and everything, and I was like, oh, this could work. And also, you know, he's a good-looking dude, tall, and I was like, oh yeah, this could work, because he was like, you know, the music was like kind of street, but, you know, he was more a little kind of like, I don't want to say squeaky clean, but he was more like the clean cut image, let's just say, that the girls would like, you know, that would go at that time, was more of
like
the thing.
His song would be played on like Family Matters would play it on the show. Like,
you couldn't have face tattoos back then to be an artist. That wasn't the thing yet. You know, that
I was trying to think like, you know, guys that were maybe in that lane, like, you know, Domino or D'Angelo, but like Montel is like,
he's more like a West Coast, well, D'Angelo, no, but I would say he's more like Jodeci. It was kind of like the idea is to try to do it like that, you know. But yeah, so that's why I wanted to sign him. And then it was funny because at that time I was working for John Singleton, and I was working on Poetic Justice and his working for his label New Deal. But then I shortly left.
By the way, amazing movie.
Thank you. Yeah, I was really blessed. My first film I worked on, I was working with Tupac and Janet Jackson. That's crazy, right? So, I shortly after that, I got my own label at Def Jam.
Wait, hold on. Can I just pause for 1 second?
Yeah.
Were you on set at all in seeing sort of like Pac and Janet like interact?
No, I got hired after.
Right.
I got hired.
But you saw the film before and had the music in it.
But John did take me and Tupac to Atlanta for Freaknik right after he rapped Poetic Justice, to like celebrate the rapping of the movie. And I did get to meet Janet. I went by a video, the video she was working on for the film or whatever. That, you know, I didn't have much interaction with Janet, but, you know, Pac I was pretty involved in, because, like, you know, we decided which Pac song we would use on the soundtrack, and we ended up picking the song that Warren G had produced, because we were also managing Warren G at that time.
Right. So
wait, I have a question for this. Hold on. He just said he went to Freaknik with Tupac. So this is a question.
That's what I want to say.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
You can't just drop that and just casually. You can't just casually gloss over that fact.
You had to put it. He's ready.
Story time.
He's ready now.
Yeah, it was wild, man. I mean, you know, there was an incident with Left Eye, R.I.P. Left Eye, and you know, it was just a lot of fun. I mean, and it was just like I mean, just like having no idea. Pac wasn't even that huge of a rapper at that time. You gotta understand, his only
Yeah.
hit he was "I Get Around." The girls at Freaknik were like running up on him and stuff, and freak hype because he had been in the movie, because he had been in
Right.
Juice. People were calling him Bishop.
Right.
People were calling him Bishop.
You got the juice
That's
now.
his name, right? That was the character name from Juice.
Right.
Whatever his character, they were calling him that. And yeah, it was wild. You know, people knew he was a rapper. Some didn't, or whatever. They were into their own music. You know, it's the South. You know, but yeah, I mean, it was wild. I mean, I had no idea what I. So you know, and John. I mean, John was already super established. He had done Boys in the Hood and everything. You know, but I mean, you know, he was still young and everything. And I mean, it's like I didn't really quite understand. You know, recently somebody put up a picture, like there's a screenshot that I froze, like you can see me getting out of the limo and then Pac's like sticking his head out. There's like a photo, and I caught a little video with him and me and John in Washington D.C. recently. But I didn't have no photos. You know, we didn't have cameras then or anything like that. You know, I didn't quite understand how like heavy the situation I was in. But the memory that stuck with me the most, because I didn't even remember a lot of it, just to be honest, but that stuck with me the most was he kept playing Party and Bullshit. It had just come out, and he kept playing it the whole week. He
crazy.
Like 40 times in a row.
Wow. So you're saying that Tupac played Party, like was listening to Biggie?
Biggie's first song had just come out.
Yeah.
That's when they were still cool. Or before they got, or whatever. I don't know. I think they were already cool. But,
that's crazy. And while it's interesting, you mentioned John, obviously a legend. You know, obviously I grew up in the era where his films were culturally insane, and I was in Canada, and we all rushed to the theater to watch all of his movies. Incredible. Did that sort of connection lead you to sort of look at music in a way through like sort of a film lens? Because you mentioned Gangster's Paradise, and I know that was in a soundtrack. Like, is that sort of, was your brain sort of working in a different way than other people's to sort of make these type of moves? Or
well, I just owe it to John, really. Like, I mean, kind of what happened was I was a hip hop guy. Like, I was ahead. Like, I was like in the mix. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like I was up on everything because there wasn't that much at that time. You could know every record that was out and even know everybody's demos that were popping more or less in your city for sure. So I was just like plugged in, you know what I mean? And it was like, I'm a white guy from Crenshaw. So like, you know, I was comfortable being in all Black environments and stuff, or any environments, you know, and that just really played into my favor. You know what I mean? People always remembered me. Oh, that's that white guy. You know what I mean? Like I stood out, you know what I mean? When I was in urban environments and stuff too. So, you know, my thing was starting to pop, you know what I mean? And I met John. I was just a hip hop guy. And I was just a plugged in guy that really was really, and John said, oh, this is my A&R. This guy's going to bring me the good songs or whatever, you know what I mean? And so we worked together on Poetic Justice, and that's how he used me. He didn't really use me like a music supervisor. I didn't know what the music supervisors did. I was like learning on the job. I was kind of shook. Like, you know, it's kind of like the Emperor's New Clothes. I was like, yeah, I'm the music supervisor. Like, what do music supervisors do? Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, and it was a studio film, so they were actually doing all of the administrative, the clearing, a lot of the main work of what music supervisors do. I didn't even have to do. I was just there to find songs. So I was like, oh,
did you use that as a chance to sort of like elevate your roster?
Well, I mean, at that time, I was managing Farside, and John. That's one of the reasons.
Like, I mean, it's just like every name you drop is just like
that John hired me is because when he met me, I was doing promotions and marketing for Ice Cube, and I was managing Farside. So like those are two pretty big like co-signers, right? Where you know Farside was new, but he liked him. You know what I mean?
Everybody liked him.
I was also managing this unsigned artist named Coolio, and he liked him. In fact, John liked Coolio so much. In Poetic Justice, Tupac's talking about his cousin's music that plays, and it's Coolio's demos. Twice.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah. And so anyway, I mean, I was just trying to find music that John liked that would fit in the film or whatever. You know, John was on some big, we were getting TLC songs. I remember we got an Usher song. That was Usher's first song ever. He was like 12. I met Usher. He was like 13 or something. It was like we went over to L.A. Reid's place, and he was like a hotel wherever you're at, and this is Usher. We met Usher, you know. So John's getting TLC songs, Usher songs. John sets up a meeting between me, him, Suge, Dre. You know what I mean? About getting a Snoop song or whatever. You know.
And how did that go? How did that meeting go?
Great. Everybody loved John. I'm John's dude.
Yeah.
Hey, let me check my beats. Hold on one second.
This is incredible. I mean, it's just like we start scratching the surface with these guys, and we end up realizing there's like books worth of. I mean, there's already books, but I'm saying it's just like people. This isn't just wild, man. Farside.
Let's get to Warren G.
Yeah. I want to let's just talk about Farside for 1 second here, because I'm like I said.
I'm go with your man, then I'm gonna jump there because we're right at the Warren G. Let me.
Okay. Sure.
So, what happened? What had happened was, working on Poetic Justice. I was in the Death Row Studios a lot when Dre was working on stuff, trying to get the song delivered that we're gonna get, which ended up being the Dog Pound song that's on the Poetic Justice soundtrack, right? But like first it was supposed to be a Snoop song or whatever. That didn't happen, right? Snoop's on the song, you know what I mean? But and then when he finally did deliver the song, had a Bobby Womack sample in it that didn't clear. And then I had to go back to the studio and be like, Dre, the sample didn't clear. Can you reflip it? And he really didn't want to do it. And to be honest, that's probably how I met Warren, because then I was kind of like, it was kind of my job to just kind of like spend time up there trying to get Dre to do this song. Not a whole lot, but I stopped by a few times. And that's when one time I did it, I met Warren. And Warren was like, hey, cuz. He's like, who's this white dude? You know what I mean? He works for John Singleton. He was like, hey, cuz, I got my own. Because he, as we find out later, and I didn't even know this, this is after he got totally kind of like screwed by Death Row. He brought in Snoop and Daz and Corrupt and everything. And then they went out on the tour, and he went to the airport, but they didn't have a ticket for him. He's going and he's sleeping on people's floor. I don't know if you've seen the G-Funk documentary, but
wow, I need to.
This was all after that. And he's still hanging out like busted, broke. Everyone else is kind of on. They're at Death Row. They're not really getting paid, but you know what I mean? They got apartments. They're signed. Everybody like this, And so he played me. We went to my Ford Explorer truck. And we put in a cassette, and it was Indo Smoke, Mr. Grimm Indo Smoke. And I let it play through like the beginning to like the hook or whatever, just like about 25 seconds, 30 seconds. I just ejected. And he's looking at me crazy. And I was like, this is fire. Like, can I keep it? I want to play it for John or whatever. And he's looking at me like, you played it for 30 seconds. Like, you didn't even listen to it. You know what I mean? I'm like, he's like, okay.
That's an undeniable song. Like, that's one of those songs. It just starts and you're just like, okay.
So he was like, okay. And then I called him the next day with John. And so then we started managing Warren, really as a producer. And then, and there's too many RIPs in the story. And then RIP Chris Lighty, who was with Def Jam at the time, had the label. He calls me and goes, yo, who's the dude? And I had sent out videos of the Indo Smoke video to like my 50 industry insider homies, right? And Chris Lighty was one of them. So he called me and he goes, hey man, who's this the kid in the second verse or whatever, rapping in the song or whatever. I go, oh, that's Warren G. That's Dr. Dre's brother, Snoop's DJ. And next thing I know, Russell Simmons just called me, and I have a label with Def Jam. And so, I executive produced with Chris Lighty his first album, and it came out on Def Jam. Yeah.
Holy smokes, man. That's incredible. So Regulate.
Yep, I was in the studio.
So is Michael McDonald, is he aware? Like, how did you come up with this? Like, I'm a huge like yacht rock guy, and I love Michael McDonald so much.
Warren brought a lot of samples to Dre, famously, and then Dre flipped them. You know what I mean? But like, right. Warren's a digger. Warren's a sampler.
So he pulls in this like Michael McDonald record, and it's another one of these like.
Incredible, man. I'm not trying to take credit for nothing Warren did in the studio or any of his process or anything like that. That was all Warren. You know what I mean? Like, Warren just came in. I remember when we recorded it, I was at the studio, Track Studios in the Valley, and Nate and everything. And I mean, I knew it was phenomenal, you know what I mean? But, and that song was one I knew was phenomenal too. He was weird too, because it doesn't have a hook. It's like one of the only big pop songs that doesn't have like a vocal hook, But I knew that was
interesting that you mentioned that. It's not. It's just like Nate Dogg just sings his verse.
like the whistling or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, no, and that song was crazy drama because Nate was signed to Death Row already, and then Warren was on Def Jam, so it was like they had to share it or it wasn't even going to come out, And then it got leaked on the Big Boy or whatever, and it went crazy, and it was like over.
So was there ever any interaction with Michael McDonald about the song? Like or he just cleared it right away? Like did Michael McDonald get super rich off that song?
Hell yeah, he made bank off that song.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, man? I don't remember the sample clearance process on that song, but it must not have been too hectic. You know what I mean?
Right.
Somebody at Def Jam has a better.
Sure, yeah, let's do it. Okay.
Leor Cohen was really actively involved in manhandling that whole situation, so I was just kind of like, a puppet on a string out in L.A.
It's crazy because like that song specifically has like so many like legendary sort of rock people are on that Michael McDonald track. Like the musicians playing on that track are like, it's all the Toto guys are on that track. It's just like it's an insane song on its own. And then for Warren to flip it and make a whole new hit is just remarkable.
It sounds like a Doobie Brothers song kind of too, right?
Right. It's got that Doobie bounce. So funny. Warren G, the man. And
all right. Let's do Far Side. I don't have a whole lot more. I'm sorry, man. But
okay. Far Side real quick. I'm in Toronto, Canada at this time, and we have there's a station called Much Music, which is like the Canadian version of MTV. Sure. There was 1 hour of the week where they played rap videos, and it was called Rap City. And I remember seeing for the first time She Keeps On Passing Me By video, and immediately I went to every store to try to find this thing. And it was like, who are these guys? It was like, but that's what it was because we only had an hour a week. So if you were played on Rap City, it was like, Helter Skelter, Far Side, Pete Rock. Like what are these things?
It was exciting. It was like you're an archaeologist. You're like digging, finding different. It's kind of. I feel that way now too because there's so much music out there. Now you have to dig through, and so it's like it's kind of in that way too. It's still exciting to me in that way too. I love a lot of great music coming out right now too. You know what I mean? So it's weird that you said that because it made me think about now how there's so much music and to find that you like, you have to just like dig through all kind of other shit. Maybe go through a lot of shit that sounds exactly the same or is whack or
So Far Side was uniquely different in a way that like first of all they could rap, but second of all there was like very melodic. There was like sort of singy sort of rap thing happening too, and it was a group, and it was sort of like a Tribe Called Quest, but with a little more R&B-ish kind of thing to it.
Sure. The thing that was really unique about them too was that you gotta understand was they're from LA, and at that time everybody from LA had to be like a G-Funk gangster rapper. That was expected of you, And then they're like, the girls are passing me by. We're in the up car. There's 5 of us in the Pinto. You know what I mean? They're telling these reality stories that are like comical that young people could relate to. You know what I mean? Everyone's not bawling. Everyone's not like, and it was at a time too. It's funny because, man, I feel like we're so at that time right now in hip hop, but we were at a time in hip hop where it was like the glamorization of all the materialism was getting really big and everybody was super balling and putting on pretenses of fake balling and everything. And so the Far Side's like, we're not balling at all, was just mad,
relatable.
And it was mad relevant, and it's kept them relevant to this day, I believe, because young kids like skaters and stuff with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, because they were sort of like on like a humble vibe, like they weren't like braggy, but they were really there was music. I feel like they made songs as opposed to just raps.
There was a lot of musical influences going on. Fat Lip. I'm sorry. Jay Swift, the producer.
I was going to say that it reminded me of Alcoholics, some of the production. So I didn't even know Jay Swift was involved. Or no, maybe that's East Swift. Yeah, I got my stuff mixed up.
Yeah. But the Far Side album had like the Delicious Vinyl people, like Mike Ross. It had like mostly like Jay Swift and the members of the Far Side really made the album. I'm not trying to give Mike Ross too much credit, but I'm just saying there were people, or he was there and around and influencing, and there were people like that. And before and Jay Swift and the Far Side were with this guy Reggie Andrews before me, and he had kind of like a boot camp, and they worked with like really pop groups like the Good Girls and these other groups and stuff, and so they were in that environment. That's why they left though, because they didn't fit that. And then they met me. Like he didn't even get the Far Side, you know, like the first song. And big shout out to Reggie Andrews, because great guy. You know, he's the music teacher at the high school in Watts where Tyrese is from. He discovered Tyrese. You know, been teaching there forever, and at the same time working with, you know, I think groups like the Whispers back in the day and all that kind of stuff. But he's been developing groups. So they had like a real music kind of like pop kind of boot camp thing going there with producers and things, and Jay Swift was a part of that, and the Far Side was a part of that for a while. So I think that really influenced them a lot, you know what I mean? And they were a little too weird for that, but then when they got their own chance, I think that had soaked into their brain more, and you know what I mean? And then and that's interesting you say that, because they were making songs, and I think it was just a special time, that first album. I wasn't really involved in the second album, but the first album, I mean, it was just like I say, it was just really like, it was fun. It was like you said, we felt like we were doing something like a Tribe, De La almost kind of thing on the West Coast. You know what I mean?
Right. And it had that.
Like,
sure.
There was out here. There was like in the Bay. There were Souls of Mischief. We were friends with them. We had heard their demos. There was like the guys from the Good Life Cafe, Freestyle Fellowship. So there was this underground movement of people that were kind of affiliated and stuff too. You know. And groups like the Alcoholics and stuff too, you know, all those kind of groups, you know.
So years later, Keeps on Passing Me By gets sampled in an R&B song. Was that your work again?
No, but great move. I mean, it
was like Joe or somebody.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. I mean, I feel like we could just like talk for hours, and I hope that we can have another opportunity to do so again on the road with you.
Last final question you guys want to hit me with?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Neff. I've been hogging.
Now you worked with Leor.
Yeah.
And what was it like working with those guys at Def Jam? You worked with them at Def Jam, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Kevin Lyles was like a promotion guy at Def Jam when I was there. Leor was like the president. Russell was still involved. Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot from Leor. I didn't really like the way the business deal went for me at the end of the day, you know. But you know,
what you mean?
There'll be more of that.
There'll
be more of that in the Whiteboy from Crenshaw documentary and things to come. Follow me on Instagram for updates on that, please. Paul _DJP _Stewart. I mean, I did a podcast the other day and they asked me about it, and I said, yeah, I didn't want to join the Illuminati, you know. I mean, you know, I was kidding, but in a way I'm not. Like, I mean, there was no back room Illuminati or nothing, but I'm just saying, like, I was never into jerking artists, you know what I mean? And there was a lot of that going around in the industry at that time. Still going on, but you know what I mean? It's a lot more transparent now, at least, you know, and a little different. But yeah, there's a lot of jerking of artists going around there and in that era and that time and in the hip hop genre especially. And that's just not something that I want to ever be a part of. I've always been real artist friendly, you know what I mean? So, you know, but I learned a lot in the short time I worked with him and everything. He's a very smart businessman and all that, for sure. You know what I mean?
Probably because you started out as like a DJ and a fan of, you know, and that's probably why you have, you know, I'm not doing a psychological analysis here, but I'm just saying, like, you probably have respect for the artist because you came into it loving the artists, right?
Right. My experience has been unique. First, from Crenshaw being one thing, but also, yeah, definitely like being of the culture by being kind of, you know, involved in it in a lot of ways. And just, you know, I wasn't like built like that to want to jerk artists to make a living. I mean, it's a fine line too, because as a business person in the music space or you know, you have to figure out how you can make money for your time, you know what I mean? And it can certainly go the other way, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know,
100%.
You get jerked, you know what I mean? Where they say, the artist say, oh, I got jerked. Or, yeah, okay. And then a lot of artists jerk business people that help them get to things a lot of times, you know what I mean?
It's funny, like, people who talk about like contracts, like let's just throw out, like, just for the argument's sake, like 10, I sign you to a deal. Paul is going to sign with Stu and Paul Stewart Stu Records, and I'm going to take 10%, right? Which is probably low. But in order for me to make $1 million on my 10%, you have to make $10 million.
Right. Well, that's like a management. Like management would be more like 10 to 20, right?
Sure. But my point is, in order for a manager to be successful, the artists that he manages or she manages have to make 10, 20, 30 million dollars for them to make $1, $2, $3 million.
I'm not trying to say there's not a lot of shady business practices out here and stuff, but we see a lot of things like Lil Uzi Vert complaining about his DJ drama deal. I don't know why you were a SoundCloud rapper, like, with 300, whatever, like if you do the math, and they put you on a big tour, and like, I mean, just as an example, you know what I mean? But, or Chance the Rapper fired his manager who had done such a great job for so long. I mean, look, you're never in the room with these people. You don't know what's going on and all this stuff, so it's easy to sit back on the couch and, and critique or whatever, so to speak. But no, I think that, it's a tough business from both sides. So, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not trying to sit here and say that anything too negative about anybody.
No, of course.
But, no, because I did learn a lot from working with them or whatever like that. And
I was watching the David Geffen documentary. I don't know if you saw that, but his whole vibe in the 70s seemed like very artist friendly. Like he made a place where it was like a safe space for these artists to come in, and they just loved hanging around, and everybody worked with everybody. And, it sounds like you sort of did that indirectly, but that same sort of approach, it sounds like, because you cross-pollinated this artist with that artist. And it seems like you were kind of doing those moves, right?
His biography.
Say what?
I was very influenced by his biography.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I read it later, like after I had kind of was in the middle of doing some of that stuff, but it kind of like, it did like, for sure. I mean, but mostly it just came organically, like you said. It wasn't really like, oh, I read his book and I was like,
right.
Because I kind of read it after I was even not doing as much of that, but it was kind of near the end of it and stuff too. But because I tried to study the craft, but no, I was just that kind of guy. My management company stuff, it was like party, dude. I mean, like everybody used to come up there. You know what I mean? We were, we had the best trees. You know what I mean? Like we were getting the new music. At first I was a street promoter. I was giving out DJs all the records and everything. So it's just always been about the music and the culture and everything. So, but look, let's schedule another time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we will.
I'm talking with you guys. You guys made me think of some things that I hadn't said before, because sometimes I always give the same answers. I like that.
That's good. I'm happy, and we'll do it again. And have fun in the Dominican, and be safe out there, man. And
I'll be back in Crenshaw shortly. Have people follow me on Instagram, Paul_DJP_Stewart, STEWART.
Yeah.
I kind of private, but I follow a lot of people back. If you seem like you got something interesting going on or whatever, hit me up. Or I read my messages and stuff too, so hit me up. And
sounds good.
Man, keep going. I dig your podcast, man. Good work.
Thanks a lot, man. We'll talk.
Thank you, brother.
Really, really great, guys. It's very rare we get to chop it up with a legend like this. And thanks for your time, man. We'll do it again.
You guys have a great day, man.
Yeah, you too, man.
You too, brother.
That's Paul, everybody. Paul Stewart. Paul Stewart. He's great.
Yeah.
He's got stories, man. I mean, just like the artists, it's funny because it seems like on this podcast or show, we talk a lot about like commercial rap from like the 90s, which gets a bad rap, like from people who are like snobby hip hop people. They frown upon the commercially successful songs. The gas face, if you will. And
they still do.
Right. And I think that it's interesting that guys like us who are kind of purists, who love the real stuff, we're having this kind of dialogue where we're like giving flowers to like Tone Loc Wild Thing and, Julio, Gangster's Paradise. And
Let me not front, though. When those songs came out, I was super New York with it. I was super underground rap with it. And
I'm sure, but I mean, you can still, it's like.
No, I'm just saying as an adult, though.
Yeah.
I don't feel the same way.
Right.
But as a kid growing up.
Like EPMD, we used to like talk about these songs that we're talking about in not a favorable light. And I would be on EPMD's side back then.
Yeah.
But I also, at the same time, I'd go to school dances and dance parties and basement parties, and they were playing Montel Jordan, This Is How We Do It, and Coolio, Gangster's Paradise, and Snow, Informer, and all these types of songs. And I was just as happy to hear those at the party.
It wasn't at my parties like
we were
that.
probably going to different parties.
Yeah.
But that was a great time, and Paul was great, and you should definitely follow him on his social medias at Paul _DJP _Stewart STEWART, and he is Paul, who is referenced in Montel Jordan's "This Is How We Do It," which is a song you should definitely listen to. We'd play it for you now, but then we'd get flagged. Shout out to Cable Guy Jeff, who made at least $25 or $30 today. Thanks to Paul Stewart, who dropped a couple of bombs in the swear jar. So shout out to Cabes. And shout out to all of you guys. I'm very thankful that you tuned in. Remember, never be thirsty. Stay hydrated. I take drinks with me everywhere I go. We forgot to ask Paul what his drink of choice was, but I'm sure we'll have him on again. WireFang, we didn't get much from you today, but you did set up this show, and you should get credit for all of the hard work you do behind the scenes. And you're a great guy too, Mr. Fang. So Fang you. Happy birthday to the Neff Man, and we will speak. We'll speak again in a few days. This is Never Thirsty, Jitty Bambino. See you guys next time.
We out. Never thirsty.